To order at 7:01 p.m. and we'll start off with roll call.
Steve Haken, Lake Enchantment.
Dennis Ferraro, Eagles Nest Road.
Bethany Cody, Lake Enchantment.
Jim Johnson, White Oak Drive.
Linda Winslow, Norwood Street, Marquette Township, Trowbridge Park.
Eric Powers, Staff Planner.
Jason McCarthy, Planning and Zoning Administrator.
Approval of the agenda.
Motion.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes from previous meeting of June 12th, 2024.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Okay, I just had a couple questions about the minutes first. We asked for a couple things to be included on the agenda from now on, and I just wondered if we just didn't have time this week.
We can discuss it in the correspondence, but yeah, you're right. Road committee meeting minutes, planning commission, or rec committee. Rec committee hasn't met in a couple months. But yeah, we can get you those. We'll send them to you.
Oh, no, it wasn't, no, it was, we were asking for, like the blight to be an agenda item.
Oh, sure. Yeah, under correspondence.
And then, the ZBA asked us to put that on the agenda to talk about the, well, you kind of asked about it, for the, square footage of the houses.
Sure. We can add that to the agenda if you like.
Okay.
And I know there's no standalone agenda item for the blight or property maintenance stuff that we talked about, but I mean, that often falls under the planning and zoning report. But moving forward, we can certainly put it as its own agenda item.
Okay. All right. So, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Any public comment from anyone right now wishing to come forward?
Hi there, Nathan Lone. I'm going to be a public nuisance. I apologize about that. I have concerns about the gravel pit, so I don't know if
Name and-
Nathan Lowen, 225 Forestville Basin Trail. So I've got concerns about the gravel pit that we're going to go over today. I don't know if now is the best time to talk about it or later, but I drive through there now that the Fly Ash Road is open, and so I get to experience that land, which is beautiful, and I'm having a hard time imagining this gravel pit, all 400 acres of it going in that area. So as I go through the ordinance and trying to read different things, and it's all new to me and I'm not the expert on this, and I'll agree with that, but on 17.01 it says, the review today determines whether the proposed use should be permitted by weighing the public need for and the benefit to be derived from the proposed use against any local impact which it may cause. Essentially it's saying, if we're going to pass this, we need to say that there's a local need and a benefit versus the cost of this gravel pit going in. So when I think about the cost, as I drive through there, I get to see all the animals, the deer, the turkey, the grouse. I don't see the salamanders, but I know they're there. It's a beautiful area as far as an environment. Never mind the rocky geography is awesome. I mean, I consider it similar to the gray walls as far as the rocks that are there. But the other concern that we have as far as the local impact is the road. I mean, we talk about the Forestville Road, and he alludes to using Forestville Road in here as far as going north, and well, we've went over that enough. I don't think I need to allude that more traffic on the Forestville Road is a bit of a problem. I'm concerned greatly about just future development of Marquette. I mean, if we put a gravel pit in there for 100 years, I mean, I can't imagine thinking of this area that's close to Marquette that could possibly be residential area, would be perfect spot to live. Rather, it's going to just build this entire section between scenic residential and scenic residential, and it's going to block future growth to Marquette North. I mean, maybe not anytime soon, but 100 years of a gravel pit. Yeah, never mind the noise. To me, being nearly a neighbor, they're right across the train tracks from us. So if they're blasting 2 to 3 times a week or whatever it is, well, that's also a concern for me. So those are local impacts. That's our cost as a township. Do we have a need for it though? I mean, that's the other question. Is there a need for another gravel pit in Marquette? I don't know. I mean, I know that we've got a lot of gravel pits. I think we've got 5. Smith has got 2. We've got the one in Crossroads. I think the county's got one in Crossroads. And then there's another one by the name, anyhow, I think there's like 5 gravel pits that I know of, at least in the township, or in the county of Marquette. So I think we have to be proven that there's a need. I don't know how you do prove that we have a need for this. I mean, we could say that this Forestville development needs it. I'm not certain that they do, but it's not even happening yet. Then what other benefit is there to us as an area? I don't think there's much benefit at all, besides hamstringing us with possible tax revenue, possible north development. I have real concerns about the gravel pit. I think that, I was kind of surprised when I was just going over the minutes or the agendas to see this on there. It suddenly shocked me. So I understand they bought the land. It's unfortunate to buy that land, to think that you're going to do a gravel pit on there and then have me stand up here and say, don't do it. But gee, I got to imagine that I could buy that land back and develop that land. I mean, to some extent. I don't know what they paid for it, but I think we could probably even come up with something close to that. But yeah, it's concerning. I wonder about the zoning. I wonder if it should be zoned something other than what it currently is. Again, you know that better than I do, but we're scenic residential. It's just north of us. There's scenic residential on the lakeside there. It seems that maybe that's what it should be zoned. I can see why it wasn't, because it was We Energy before, so that would make sense it was zoned what it is, but anyhow, my concerns is local impact is great, is benefit there for us.
Dr. Lowen?
Yes.
Excuse me, could you please give your address again? I missed it when you...
Oh, sure. 225 Forestville Basin Trail.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Hi, Susan Spalding, 285 Forestville Basin Trail, and I just want to say that I have the same exact concerns that Dr. Lowen does. Thank you.
Tom Senko, 475 Forestville Basin Trail. I support exactly what Dr. Lowen has indicated to you folks. Thank you.
Anything else for public comment? All right.
Would you remind the people who spoke that they have another opportunity at public comment?
I just wanted to close the public comment first. But, yeah, I think Jason would probably like to address this, and
Oh, I'd love to. Thanks. We were just as shocked, honestly, as you folks, okay? So, you bring up some great points, and these are things that not only staff has to wrestle with. Mr. Storty and I had a meeting the other day, and I let him know that this would be a huge challenge based on the fact that the Planning Commission already approved, effectively a gravel permit for him. So, to back up, the land was held under common ownership with We Energies prior to even the advent of zoning. And this is a master plan year for us. These young ladies up here they're our staff. They're a national planning firm, SEH, and we're lucky to have them working for us. And you're right, we haven't had the opportunity to look at this from a future land use standpoint. Private property becomes available and it gets purchased. There was a news article today about the Westwood Mall saying, why would the city, even though we're a township, so that was a misnomer, but why would the township allow such a dirtbag property owner, let's say, or people are saying, in different words, but why would they allow somebody to purchase that mall and have such problems there? We don't have the right to distinguish who gets to purchase private property. But we do have the ability to zone the property. We have safeguards built into our zoning ordinance. I think Mr. Storty has an ambitious business plan, but we have to balance that with the needs of the people, the needs of the community, and the requirements that we have. And we will make the Planning Commission known, if they haven't already looked up some of the review criteria for a conditional use permit. And those were well spelled out by you. And I think the Planning Commission, we've already received emails since the agenda went out. We've had some meetings already. So I think today, Mr. Storty wants to have more of a conversation with the planning commission ahead of even establishing a public hearing date. And so we'll get to that, and Mr. Storty has the right to speak. He filled out an application. We believe it's complete. He paid the fee. He has the right to go to a public hearing if the planning commission so chooses. So we will get to that, and we have the same concerns as most of you in the audience with regard to balance of need and use and land use, especially in light of a master plan update where we are looking at various areas of the community for future growth, particularly in that area, as well as some other areas. So I guess that's my 2 cents on that.
I guess we'll move on to 6A, new business then, the Short Elliott Hendrickson Master Plan Kickoff Public Participation Plan Discussion. Jason?
Yes, well, I would like to introduce you to planners Bria Grace and her counterpart Lori from SEH, which is a wonderful planning firm. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, since we're paying you quite handsomely via a grant to guide us through this initial part. And I'm going to sign into that website that you asked for. And I hope that everybody here pays attention to this. This is, a big part of what this body, the Planning Commission, is in charge of: land use, zoning, and protecting general health, safety, and welfare. So, Bria?
Okay. Just a logistics question. So we have a PowerPoint, but if you're logging into the website, then we can't do both at once, right? So
You want to go through the slides yourself, and I'll get into the... Oh, I see what you're saying. We could switch away from the PowerPoint if you want.
no, this is good. We'll go through PowerPoint, and then at some point we'll pause, and then
The pointer doesn't work on the LEDs, just FYI.
thanks. Thank you. Thank you for hiring us to help you with your master plan update. We're really excited to be here. I lived in Marquette. I started my career up here, my professional career, working for the county years ago with the KI-SOAR Redevelopment Authority, and so I'm excited to be back and to work with the township. Lori Miller and I are both community planners, and land use, both of us have municipal background. We've worked for me 15 years working for municipalities before I joined a consulting firm. So I've been with SEH for 6 years, and how many years?
5 years in municipal planning and 10 years of other dabbling at regional level planning efforts and consultant work.
So it brings us experiences and understandings working as a zoning administrator, working with the public, and working through land development kind of piece by piece, application by application. And what's really great about master planning is it's your once every so many years opportunity to step back and to really engage the community and say, what is our vision? Where do we want to wind up? And then you can set policies and update your codes and achievable steps to get to that vision. So we look forward to working through this with you. So I have the pointer. I'm pointing to you, but it's not going to
Next
work.
slide, please.
SEH is a multidiscipline planning firm. We have a great bunch of colleagues that we work with. Transportation engineers, civil engineers, structural, environmental resource scientists, folks that just specialize on landfills, folks that work on airports. We have a whole array. Folks that work in food service development and site planning. And so we're here, your liaisons, but we have a great group of team that we're going to tap into as we go through the project. So your current master plan was adopted in 2020, is that?
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That is right, yeah. Okay, your CIP was 2019 in there. So it focused on smart growth principles, looked at a lot of transportation planning, looking at safety patterns or safe transportation patterns for multimodal, looking at providing appropriate public facilities and services, and preserving enhancing public access and the enjoyment of natural amenities. So we're looking at doing the 5-year update. And why are we doing this? The purpose of a master plan is that it's the opportunity for us to set that roadmap, like I started out with. It also is a useful tool to your developers, to your property owners, so that they know what the regulations are. They know when they purchase the property, they know what's allowable for development of the property. It can be a great marketing tool for the community if you're trying to bring in a certain sector into the community. We're going to outline your demographics and kind of needs, and so it is a nice marketing tool as well. And it, in the end, guides capital improvements and prioritization of your projects. A master plan has a lot of different elements that are involved with it. Goes transportation to land use to housing to environmental resources to economic development. Lots of different aspects, community services and facilities. So one of the tasks is going to be updating the future land use plan. This is the currently adopted plan. So this is an item that will be discussed, reviewed. It's an opportunity for the public to comment on what future land uses should be. So kind of thinking about this as how do you want this land to be developed in 20 years? Right, so this gives the guidance to the zoning ordinance and the zoning map. And so it's that good time to step back and think about big picture development patterns. All right, so when we do planning processes, we have a 3-tiered approach to it. We start with engagement, heavy public engagement. That sets the foundation for what the community's values are, what's important, what are the needs, what are the opportunities. And hearing from the public then, that starts to paint a picture of the vision and where you want to be in 10 to 20 years. Once we understand that, in combination with doing demographic data, so understanding existing conditions, we start to then paint that picture for what the implementation should be, what the priorities are, hearing from the public, what's important to them. Along the way, there's a little graphic down at the bottom. Along the way, it's kind of 3 important aspects. We want to do what we can to help the community visualize what the changes are. So informing them of the data that we come up with and understand, and then educate the public about the land use decisions and zoning and just different factors that play in. That slide's kind of messed up.
How did that happen? Kind of moved on me, sorry.
All right, so as I kind of discussed, the goal of public engagement is to gather perspectives and start to build consensus. So that's where we will start. So we're going to identify those areas of future growth, overlay kind of all those things that go into growth patterns, right? Like, how does this affect utilities? How does this affect your transportation network? How does this affect the natural resources and environment? And still, as communities develop, we want to make sure that we're strengthening the sense of place, right? And keeping to what the core values of the community are. So our approach to public engagement, and Lori, if you want to talk about the public participation plan here shortly.
Sure.
We're going to go through that. We want to start with a community survey. We did a survey in the township did a survey in 2018, which informed that 2020 plan. And we're also going to do a public event. What we found is that people, years ago, people would sit down and complete a community survey by paper. They're not doing that so much anymore. And what we found to be more effective is going to where people are. So there's a Community Days Festival, is that what it is? August 3rd.
August 3rd.
So we're going to go to the event and be there and talk with the community. We want to be where your residents are, where your property owners are, and that at that same time we'll be running the community survey, so that we're talking to the folks that are there, but then others that aren't there are able to contribute. We'll have some stakeholder discussions too, so talking with some key business members, the business community, kind of key property owners, and start to just gather all that information from the public. We will have working sessions with the Planning Commission. You'll be serving as the steering committee for us for the plan update. And then we will also include a community open house at the end. So once we have a final draft, it's that last opportunity for the public to comment before a plan update is recommended for adoption. We'll be working with Jason and Eric on a addition to the township's website, so that we have a page just for the for the master plan. We'll have the public events listed, how people can contribute. We'll have drafts posted there just so that everything is transparent and there's one spot where people can go to find updates about the plan. Is this okay?
Might have hopped around a little bit. So one of the items that we like to use for a community survey is a program called Alchemar. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll create a little QR code that will link right to the survey. We'll provide like a little bookmark, just a little thing to pass out. Also, it might be on a couple flyers with a QR code, so anybody walking by can basically just take their phone, take a picture, leads right to the survey, and then we'll have a set number of questions, which we'd like to talk to you about tonight too. But then they can answer that, and then we tabulate all that data. We can ask very specific questions too, such as, are you a resident here, or do you live in a neighboring community, and which neighboring community it is? We can filter out all the data based on where the individuals are living. Another one of the concerns that regularly comes up is people taking the survey multiple times to try to skew the data. And so we have the ability with this program to actually look at the IP addresses and see who's taking it multiple times. Now, this does sometimes happen when it's a couple living in the same house and they use the same computer. But we can normally tell because all the answers are exactly the same. And so then we can filter it out through that method. But yeah, so what we're really trying to go for tonight is, oh, somehow we missed that page. Well, we have a public participation plan that's within your packet,
right,
and it goes through all the items that we'd like to create for public involvement to get an adequate vision for the plan, the master plan, and so that's listed in your packet. So as you can see, we talk about the survey, we talk about a public involvement workshop, which we'd like to go to that event in August. Pop-up meetings. Sometimes we'll just organize special meetings with stakeholders. And then Bria basically covered most of the other ones. Press releases. We really think using social media is a great way to get other people involved. And tapping into other unique items, like tapping into your school district. A lot of times they'll go in and give out a weekly email to all the parents and, hey, could you participate in this manner, and keep them aware of different events that we might have. So that's your public participation plan that we're hoping that everybody will agree with, and if so, then we'll move forward on that path for public involvement.
Okay.
Is there anything else beyond this?
So then the public involvement plan, so we want the commission to vote on that. Is that on the agenda for approval this evening? For action? Public participation?
Not for approval necessarily.
But just for feedback.
By consensus, does that sound like a fair?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. What was the question?
The proposed public participation plan that they put together that's in your packet that you reviewed, is there a consensus that that's a good path forward?
Well, can we have some discussion on that?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I thought your plan was great, and your presentation was great, but let me put my cheaters on here so I can look at my own notes. Regarding the community survey, you know, there are old people that live here, and some old people have computers, and there's a lot of old people that don't. In fact, some, you know, they even pay extra on their bills because they get paper bills rather than e-bills. And so aren't we, you know, our township sends out a monthly garbage bill with a calendar. I would volunteer to stuff at least 200 envelopes with your survey, if you could put it in paper form. And it's a nonprofit mailing thing, so for, I don't know, what do we have, 3,500 residents in the township?
4105 as of the 2020.
4105, so that's probably about 2,500 bucks on a bulk mailing, you know, based on my experience with that. Is that a possibility of doing, in addition to, I like your you know, the barcode thing and the filters that you use and so forth. Is that a possibility to consider? I'm just asking.
Yeah, so I'll respond to that. So we have not gone away from the paper surveys because there are folks that don't want to do an internet survey, and it doesn't necessarily have to be related to age, right? People just prefer not to. So we have not gone away entirely from paper surveys. Typically, we do have a paper survey that goes in parallel with it, and we have them in locations like have it at town hall where people can come in and pick it up and drop it off. Considering mailing expenses, one thing we talked to Jason about is maybe just including a link or a note where maybe people can pick it up versus sending out the survey to everyone. So that's something to consider. Just, you know, a notice, hey, we have a survey going on. If you'd like a copy, come into town hall. But if the township wants to mail out surveys, that's agreeable to us too.
All right.
May I also suggest, if you have any retirement communities, that's a great place to just drop off some copies and say, hey, we're gonna pick it up on this date, and that way you're saving yourself some mailing expenses. You might still have some printing expenses, and that's relatively easy for us to scan in and capture that data.
Okay. The other thing that it's caught my ear. You say you have a algorithm that filters out the same answer from a household, a husband and wife, or partners, whatever they call them these days. But why would you do that? I mean, if you have a husband and a wife, or a partner and a partner, they each have their own opinion, right?
We're trying to filter out the ones that are, sometimes we'll have one person who feels that they want to answer the questions multiple times to try to skew the answer, and so sometimes we will filter out those. But we do have a tremendous amount of people that they use the same computer at home, and no matter what, they always end up giving some variation of answers, and so those wouldn't be filtered out. It's pretty clear, you know, that it's taken by different people. And sometimes we don't even bother filtering them out because honestly, given the volume of questions that are answered, somebody repeating a survey 2 or 3 times would never skew the overall response.
In your initial presentation, you mentioned the members of your team include environmental scientists. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, but when you talked about stakeholders, you mentioned just talking to business people. Wouldn't you want to talk to somebody from, say, Superior Watershed Partnership, or Yellow Dog, or Citizens for a Safe and Clean Lake Superior, or the Land Conservancy? You know, wouldn't you want to include those as stakeholders?
Yes.
Will you?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll work through Jason to give us guidance on exactly what stakeholders we're going with, but we want the feedback from the Planning Commission. This is why we want you as our steering committee, is to give us this guidance, make sure that we're talking to the right stakeholder groups that we need to. But yeah, absolutely, that needs to be factored in.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis.
And what was the consensus question?
if there was consensus moving forward with their proposed public participation plan,
Okay.
given the comments that were made this evening
Okay.
by the planning. I think it's rock solid. How can you go wrong? We've been doing surveys. Surveys are important. I think as staff, and if I haven't put you on notice yet, I will. But we know this is a master plan update year, so we're prepared to work more hours. We know that we're going to have to put in extra effort. If we have to go to Super One and hand them out, if we have to go to
The corner store.
the corner store, yeah, where people pick up their beer and cigs, we'll do that too.
And milk.
And milk.
We know what Jason's.
I don't
yeah,
smoke, but yeah,
we have a church in our community.
yeah.
I mean, we as a planning commission can brainstorm some stuff and,
Well, I think we can all make an extra effort
Yeah.
to get the best information we can to formulate the plan, right? So we're all aware of that, and we'll work with you to make sure that that happens.
That's a good
One final
point.
question.
Sure.
Will you submit a draft of your survey to the planning commission prior to the time you send it out?
Yes, that's what we were working on with Jason on today.
Okay.
And he suggested that the planning commission likely would want to see the draft before it goes out. So we would like some initial feedback this evening. The 2018 survey was in your packet. So if you have any ideas on survey questions that should be carried forward and asked again, or additional questions that should be asked this year, if you can give us that feedback tonight, and then we'll get you a draft for the July 10th meeting. Is that when it is?
Yeah, and I guess keep in mind, this master plan update is being funded entirely by a grant that we received from the Michigan State Housing Development Authority. So there will be a strong emphasis in the plan, not that there's not anyway, in the master plan, but housing will be a big component. And it's a big component regardless of whether we got a grant or not, right? We have lots of different housing developments that are in the mix or on hold or whatever. And so housing, I think the planning commission should recognize that that's a major topic and a theme of this master plan update, and make sure that the right questions are being asked as part of the survey. If you'll recall, and something that we discussed this afternoon, a lot of people don't want the 5 to 10 acre types of developments where you have a lot of property to maintain. A lot of people that are moving to the area, we feel, want to enjoy their livelihood as close to as possible to amenities. I've often asked the planning commission to consider proximity, not density. So regardless of density, look at proximity to educational opportunities, recreational opportunities, healthcare, etc. So yeah, housing needs to be one of the main topics that we discuss and ask our residents about. But yeah, I think that covers housing. A little grandstand on who funded this baby.
so I just have a couple of things I could share later, some changes in some wording.
Okay.
So it makes it correct.
Do you want to change that? Do you want to suggest that now?
No,
Or-
they're just grammatical things
Oh,
I'll show
okay.
you.
Okay.
You want to have it right.
Should we give our suggestions for topics to Jason, he'll forward them to you? Is that how you want to handle it?
I think so, unless you want to address them right now.
And share it so everybody,
Yeah.
If
everybody
you've
might have
reviewed your
similar.
packet and
I'm-
you reviewed the survey, are you comfortable with the questions that were asked previously, or do you think that this is a different time and space?
I think there are some changes, but I'm not prepared to tell you what they are right now.
Okay.
I could
So
do it-
we-
give a couple days, I could do it.
Between now, then, gang, between now and the 10th, actually it would be the 5th, because, packets go out on Friday. Okay.
Now on the 5th.
Do we maybe need to have a work session, the planning commission, and sit down as a small group and make some, and do this? I feel like Denny, I didn't really come prepared to offer that information tonight. I've read it all, and I've read the survey questions. I do know that people, if there's too many survey questions, they're not gonna answer them, and if they're too long and too many options, they're gonna get tired.
Yeah.
And I do know if you offer them rewards, they usually answer your survey questions. So maybe come with some ink pens or something to Community Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just kind of, I don't know what you do in other places, but that's our local flavor here. People like rewards.
So usually for that event, we actually don't go through the survey. We try to piecemeal it. We recognize that we're only gonna have them in front of us for maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And so we wanna make that moment powerful and get quick information. So we normally have just a couple activities for them to, hands-on activities, to keep people engaged so they feel like they can just kinda answer the question, move on, or do the activity and move on. And then that's when we also try to hand out flyers or the QR code so that they can take the survey when they get home, but we're still getting that meaningful data in that
So
moment.
you'll have to sit down with me and
Sure.
we'll have to talk about what's available at Community Day for you to
Absolutely.
do. Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect.
And
Yeah.
I also want to remind
Perfect.
everybody that we do kind of have a sensitivity on time for this too. The bulk of your residents are here right now, and we don't want this time to pass us because we need to get this data to be able to start the visioning process, to move into the planning process to get this project done on time. So I know that we're asking probably for a lot to have these questions determined before the 5th. And we can be like a little flexible with it, but we definitely need to get that packet.
Let me ask the
into
planning
agenda.
commission this, given the discussion tonight, do you want staff to work with our consultants to come up with questions in a draft survey for you to consider at the next meeting?
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
but we could also
We want to have some
Absolutely.
input into it.
give you some suggestions.
If we miss the mark, yeah, I mean, if we,
Yeah.
but so in between now and then, we'll do that.
Yeah.
And then you can also bounce your emails off of me, okay? Okay, great.
So when would we expect that from you?
The draft would be in the packet for the July 10th meeting.
So if I could talk about a couple more steps, just kind of bringing this all together, and the comment you mentioned about faith groups. So we'll work with Jason, get some draft questions put together, so that can be in the packet out on the 5th. You can discuss it at the July 10th meeting. And then we would like the survey questions finalized a week before August 3rd, so that we can get it published, we can get it up and running, get the survey up and running, so that
Ahead of community days.
ahead of community days, because at community days, we
Community day.
like to have a little booth, have those hands-on activities, have a little like bookmark or a little flyer where we hand to people, has the website, a QR code where they can snap a picture of it, and then brings the survey up on their phone.
So you're talking about July 25th, 26th, something like that?
Yes.
Do you,
We have a meeting on the 24th.
do you have your QR code and stuff good to go? Because I can tell you that we have a local newspaper, but it's not purchased by as many people as it once was, but I can tell you this is picked up free by lots of residents. But you have to have your stuff ready to go probably in a week or two.
I think,
Those surveys.
All you need is your QR code so they can get to it, into this
Well-
particular newspaper, I'll call it, but it's free.
is it monthly?
It's monthly.
So maybe we're better off on the next monthly cycle?
Maybe.
Because once we.
This is July's,
Okay.
so you,
To get into August.
to get into August, you bet you have to have it ready by the middle of July,
Okay.
okay? But
So
it's, that's just a suggestion. I can tell you it's well-read in our community. People are shaking their heads.
How long do you anticipate the survey running for?
30 to 60 to 90 days, kind of
Oh.
up to,
That's,
we watch the response rates, and as they start to taper off, then say, okay, maybe this is it. But if you have more events where you want to advertise it at, we can keep it open longer. Once we do get the website up and running, we'll get the QR code. For sure, we'll have that, I think, by that last week of July. And so then we have kind of that platform, right, where people can go to, the survey's ready, they can see how to engage. That's a good time to start reaching out to faith-based organizations also. And sometimes you can put a little notice in the bulletins, right, or in the school district newsletter if there's something that goes out, or, some of the utility bills, watershed notices. And then that gives people, the website will give the why are we doing this? What's the purpose? Here's how you get engaged. Here's how you provide comments. So we need to have these like foundational things set up, and then we can start to really do that outreach. And as we get responses back from the survey, and as we go to community days, we'll check in and we'll say, who are we missing, right? Are there groups of the community that we haven't heard from, right? And so then we can adapt and say, okay, we need to talk to this group so that we really are having a representative experience of who lives here, right? And make sure that everyone's got a voice into the plan.
How much engagement do you typically have with TV media or radio media?
I would say it varies community by community, but starting out with a public notice, a press release, right? You could do that. We could put together a draft press release, and then that can get published, and we want our website up and running at that point. So then once the media is going out, it gives people immediately that place to respond and provide feedback.
Well, there's, so we have a public broadcast network here that the NMU runs, and there's two guys that do things. One guy is named Mike Settles, and he has a program. It's just a short little thing, couple minutes before the regular news or sometime, and he talks about things that are happening in the community. And then there's Channel 6, which is the one that a lot of people watch, and Andrew Lacombe is a young news director there, and he's always looking for stories. Okay. And he would, I think, with some type of an interview, maybe Jason could be the one that could appear on Mike Settles or on Smith, the guy who runs he does What's Up, What's UP. Yeah, those are two good ones. And then I know Andrew Lacombe would be just, salivating about trying to get some more.
He calls weekly, yes.
What?
He calls weekly.
He does?
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
great, okay. So, I mean, those are a couple good ways.
Yeah, well, like Bria said, we have to get our logistics
Yeah,
in order
first.
Yeah.
before we
Yeah.
launch into the universe, and we will.
Okay.
I would say the other thing that we want to be conscientious of is that we want to hear the voice of township residents, right? Our taxpayers and people that live here. And so that's just something that we vet as we're talking about how to do our outreach. And on the community survey, what we like to do is have a demographic question, like where do you live, and list, adjacent townships, so list the city, and so people can select and we can understand kind of that bigger picture as a whole. What does the community think? But then we can drill down to who lives in the town, who works in the town, who owns land in the town. We can filter by that and just see, how the responses differ between those different groups.
Sounds good. Do you want to jump on the website and do an exercise?
It's up to you. If you want to take another 15 minutes, we have a engagement exercise just to get some initial feedback from the Planning Commission. So we could do that, or if you want to get on to other agenda items, we're open either way.
I told them they had an hour, so we're doing pretty well.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
let's do it.
So let me get out of here.
Okay, so what we're going to ask you to do, Planning Commission members, is we're going to, actually, why don't we do everyone that's in the room, so you guys can all engage. So we're going to ask you to take out your phones, and we have a app that we're going to use, and we're going to ask some general questions about the township. So Jason's going to log in. In the meantime, if you go, yeah, Jason's got it though. So if you go to menti.com, it's menti.com, MENTI. Steve, is that right? Do you have a phone, or do you want to borrow one of ours?
Can you go on a website? Can you do it online? Or
Yeah,
just
but each person has to do it individually.
Sure.
So Jason is going to log
Okay.
in and give us
Computer.
the results.
Enter the code to join and vote. Is that what you're?
Yep, that's right. So the code, and I'll repeat this several times. The code is
yeah.
89604638. So I'll start over. It's 89604638.
Okay.
So one more time, it is 89604638.
Bria. Yeah, so it says enter email address and you gave me this.
Okay, and then just do it at shbank.com.
So now we're supposed to fill this in.
Asking for your email on that?
Incorrect password. S-H, all caps, E-R-G, all caps.
You just, I think you just had it. Look, just go down.
Are you blocked because that computer doesn't let you get somewhere?
S-E-H, Inc.com.
Oh, I see. The first. So the pass is $1.
On the pass.
They said end.
Hearing aids.
They're up so long.
Behave yourselves over there.
Okay, so we may not be able to show the results online, or I mean up on the screen, but at least we will get the survey running, and next time we'll give you the results. All right, so did the first question come up for you?
I think it's timing out now. It was.
Yeah, it's timing out.
Okay, now it's saying, what are 3 words to describe Marquette Township? So we weren't
Yeah.
able to, is that?
That's the first question.
That's the first
Yep.
one? Okay.
Yeah, so the first question on the screen is, what are 3 words to describe Marquette Township? Just now you just plugged into an HDMI up there?
Can you repeat the code?
Sure. It is 89604638.
896043.
4638.
6-3.
Again, I can't.
So Jason, what are the words that you're seeing up on the screen? Small was one of the first ones that popped up.
Small, quiet, progressive, livable, rural,
There we
beautiful,
go.
natural.
It's up on the screen.
Okay, we're there. Okay.
Does anybody still have issues logging in?
We should have did a dry run, hey, earlier today. That's all right. I asked for this actually, and we can screenshot this or just take a picture of it. But beautiful is the main word. Well governed, thank you.
Jason didn't write that.
I'm holding a computer. I'm not typing anything.
Here, just plug in. We'll see.
Mutual Admiration Society.
I think it has something to do with the connection to the TV.
Okay, so
I think so too.
Oh, really? Yeah, we've had multiple issues with.
there we go.
There, now you got it.
Yeah, so there you go.
And as people are adding answers, you'll see the word cloud shift based on what was answered the most.
And all those there are actual responses, huh?
Yep, that's what everyone's.
Basically tabulating it in real time.
Yeah, so down at the corner, what does it say, 10 people
Yep.
have responded?
34.
Oh, 34 responses.
Yeah, answers.
Safe, rural, fun, active, livable, quaint,
Kind of like a living Venn diagram,
Okay, we can go on to the next question. So Jason, if you want to hit the forward arrow. If you're still completing that last question, you can finish completing it, hit submit, and then it will still be included with the results. So we have, I think, 3 questions total. One is just a general one at the end, so this isn't going to take too long. But the second question is, how would you use the updated master plan? So just kind of thinking more from a planning commission standpoint and from a governing standpoint, what value do you see? You know, as commissioners, how have you used your past comp plan, or sorry, master plan? How have you used your last master plan, and how do you see you using this update? And so you're able to slide, like drag the responses around, so that you can, you know, the item that you see as most important, drag that towards the top. You can drag items towards the bottom, and then that will start to give the priority to those.
No, I was
just
when
ask
it
this
said other,
So
I
I
was trying
submitted
to
my
fill something in, but
answers,
I
and I,
guess just other is other,
next
right?
question, but it's not,
So I can't
it's
say
not
what the
coming
other
up. It
is.
says, thanks, we received your input, add another
Okay.
above if you want. And then when I selected next question, it was telling me that I hadn't answered the questions before. So do you want me to answer the first set of questions again, so I can move on to the next?
Sure.
'Cause I'm still on the what are 3 words to describe Marquette, which I did submit, and I did see my response there, so do I need to do that again to get through? Facilitator change slide, okay, skip ahead.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks,
I don't know, but this might be more effective than a community survey. I mean, this is
We
pretty
have,
cool.
we have different tools for different
Right.
situations.
Yeah, I suppose
So-
this in combination at an open house or.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or even community coffees, you know, if Denny goes to his community, I go to my community. Jim, we all live in different places.
Sure.
And I mean, I think community coffees are effective. You get people to come.
Mm-hmm.
People don't always come to the township hall.
Right.
We live in an exclusive community.
Yeah. And people will
that's-
volunteer to host those kinds of things. I think that's a good way if you want community people to answer your question. But you are right, the whole community, not just Marquette Township, is gonna fill the survey out.
So it's, yeah, good to look at it from the different tiers, though. You want almost all the answers.
Everybody
But
comfortable with
Yeah, yeah.
these answers? You want to move on to the last question?
sure. So just to read where we're at. So first place, or currently running in first place, is action list for future township projects. So kind of helping to prioritize where the township spends money and looking at the capital improvement plan a little bit too. So the second is resource for future zoning and land use decisions. Third is tool for funding projects, and then marketing piece for new development. Actually, a quick question about those people that answered other. Are you comfortable identifying what that other item is? I'd just like to hear what that.
I was, but now I forgot what I was thinking.
Well, if you think of it, let us know. Okay, yes, we can move on to the next question. So the next one is looking at priorities of the components of the plan. Components of the master plan, which are the primary reasons or primary items to be addressed, I guess, during the master plan update.
Number one's not on here. Oh, residential development.
It's on here.
Well, my number one.
Yeah, yeah.
These are ranked as well.
Yep, so you can just
This is-
slide
Up and down.
Yeah, this is just for practice, right? Because
this
this could be a 1, 2, 3, 4 question. What's your number one?
well, and you are able to drag,
All kinds of.
isn't it? Yeah.
How do you get more than one?
Hold on to them and put it up the top.
Yeah, it's there.
So we have residential development at the top, parks and open space, trails planning running in second,
Shocker.
tax base expansion third, looking at that future land use map, and then corridor planning. This feedback is helpful as we're thinking about survey questions too. I think we probably want to beef up a question on the new survey for housing. I think we might have addressed it just a little bit, but we may want to ask that question differently for this new survey. You know, considering that that's on the top, and you know, maybe some more parks and open space trails questions also on the survey.
And I think, I don't know if you've already looked at the census information, but we do have a large number of people over certain age groups that live in our township.
Okay.
Okay, just saying.
It's helpful.
It is helpful.
And we do look at that, and then we look at survey responses also, and just
So
that's
you
where
compare.
are we missing those age groups?
Yeah.
Or other demographics,
Mhm.
you know, that we know make up the community, but we're not hearing from them. So how do we hear from them?
Yeah, and our school system isn't growing. They've pretty much, and you can get that information from our school.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, we're not getting bigger.
Okay. All right, looks like the numbers shifted a little bit, but our prioritizations are still pretty similar to how they started. All right, so the next question, Jason, is just kind of other. If you have other thoughts or recommendations on the purpose of the plan. So feel free to add those in. So what do we have? How do you measure success? That's a good question. To help grow the township and direct development to its highest and best use, address housing concerns, and a nice comment about the township is an awesome place to live.
That's what other
fantastic.
people said?
Yeah, that's what folks have said tonight.
Okay. How do you measure success? That's a great question. From a planning perspective, it's to attract and retain residents and families. That includes providing and trying to provide educational opportunities throughout the grade scale, homes throughout your life, and job opportunities throughout your life. Are we the best at that ever? No, but activities like this and processes like this help us to do it better. So we're very pleased to have you guys assisting us, and I think you've already established that you know, this is the right direction to go. So I'm excited to see what comes next.
Sounds great. Well, thank you for your feedback, everyone, audience members,
Thank you.
community members, and planning commission members. We'll work on the draft survey. We'll kind of pull out what we think is interesting and maybe still relevant from 2018. We'll add some new questions. Give that to Jason for a little bit of revisions. We'll get it in the packet on the 5th for your discussion on the 10th. Yeah, and I guess I'm glad you're already thinking about survey length. So that's something that we kind of constantly have to vet, is there might be lots of great questions, but how do we synthesize it so that we're not losing people's interest in taking the survey? You know, we put a little bar on the bottom, you know, that you're almost done with the survey, but
Yeah, that
you know, if it's
helps.
too long, you know, people tend not to complete it.
Or,
A lot of times there seems to be redundancy in questions, and you can't even tell the difference between that question and this question and that
Yeah.
question.
Well, thank you.
You
Thank
want
you.
to touch on the timeline at all, or I mean, we're pretty good. You guys had that in your packet. If you have any questions about it, let me know, okay? So we can move on.
Sounds great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
For hiring SH to help with this project.
All right,
You all set for 6B?
we are.
Special use permit public hearing request, proposed modification to an existing extraction of earth product special use permit 011024-2. Proposed land use to be conducted per the Marquette Township zoning ordinance, Article 15, Section 15.05. The applicant is James Storty, Marquette Mineral LLC, 1540 West Adams in Iron River. Jason or Eric?
Yep. So Mr. Storty's here. I don't know if you want to come up to the podium now. I'm sure you're going to be asked to speak.
That was the intention.
So, James and I have basically been talking about this property, and I've been sharing a lot of ideas with you. You've been sharing ideas with me. But we have been talking essentially since we found out that you purchased the property. There were other entities that were interested in it, and you were the winning bid, and congratulations on that. As you know, the Planning Commission issued you a mineral extraction permit in July. Was it July? Yeah.
Well, July, but then we reaffirmed it in January of 2024 because of the notice.
That's correct. So the Planning Commission has been provided upon request a copy of the meeting minutes from that meeting and the original packet information. So your initial permit was issued, let's see, why is this not working now? Hold on. Well, I'm gonna sit here, I guess. First of all, obviously the property is zoned resource production, which is a land use that's permitted by special use on a temporary basis, meaning that there was a sunset put on and that was 30 years. The original permit, the parcel that was permitted was this parcel here, which is half of the approximate 260 acres involving the property on the south side, if you were to look at that as well. I did make that correction in the meeting minutes because that was just a simple number error. You have that in front of you tonight.
Well, Jason, when you, just to clarify.
Randy here. So
it wasn't granted for that whole 100 acres. It was only granted for 17.5 acres. Yes.
Okay, well then he's looking to modify that, okay?
400 acres.
Well, we're here to have a discussion tonight. Tonight is not a decision on this. Tonight is an exercise in demonstrating that Mr. Storty has submitted a complete application for a modification to his permit, okay? And that we're bringing this to the Planning Commission to schedule a public hearing. That's the request.
Can I ask you a question about your phrasing under review recommendation? You say staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the materials submitted. If amenable, staff recommends that a public hearing on the matter be scheduled for Wednesday, July 24th. The question is that when you say if amenable, my question is, under the ordinance, are we required to schedule a public hearing, or is it discretionary as to whether or not we even schedule it?
I may not want to go there. I want to have a discussion about this project.
Yeah, I was just asking Jason.
I believe in the same vein that when Longyear paid the fee to have an appeal, that they earn the right to have a public hearing if they want.
Okay, so you're saying we don't have any discretion as to whether or not to schedule a public hearing?
Well, if you give me a second, I can look at that section of the ordinance, or if Eric's got it in front of him, we can take a quick look.
Let me just ask this. We certainly have, any other follow-up question is, what discretion do we have in terms of the time frame let's say we.
45 days.
We are obliged. Okay, so are we obliged to grant a public hearing? Or do we have discretion to say, no, we don't want to, we don't even want to grant a public hearing?
Give me just a couple minutes here, okay? The planning commission shall review the complete application for a special use permit at the next regularly scheduled meeting following filing by the zoning administrator, and if required, shall set a date for the public hearing within 45 days thereafter.
Okay, so that, the question is, what does the phrase "if required" mean? Does that mean if a public hearing is required, or if we decide it's required? I never really got that clear, whether or not the party has an absolute right to a public hearing. But if you don't know, that's fine. We can defer that. It just seemed to be a question.
Yeah, I mean, you're picking out words in a sentence in the ordinance in a section in an article that really have never come into question before. A public hearing shall be required for a special land use to be located in the development district, comma, if the proposed special land use is located adjacent to, with existing residential land use and or adjacent with a designated residential zoning district. No. Scenic resource, rural residential, and urban residential. The township clerk shall publish one public notice of hearing not less than 15 days in advance of such a hearing, and shall notify by mail or personal delivery of the parties of interest in all property owners and occupants in all structures within 300 feet of the property.
That would be for the original one, but then if he's trying to modify the original one. Then.
Right, so if we go to that section under amendments to permits for special land uses, following the issuance of a special land use permit pursuant to the provisions of this ordinance, such permit may be amended, varied, or altered only in accordance with the standards and procedures established by this article for its original approval. Which means we go back to the start, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So a new public hearing would be required, which is the reason why.
Okay.
I apologize, folks, for these TVs. I'm not sure if I can turn them on, turn them off, or, it's actually kind of embarrassing that they're not working right after all the money that we put into this. I'm just gonna turn that one off. I don't know if that's the problem.
All right, so your answer is, if he is entitled to have a public hearing if he wants one.
If we decide.
Is that right?
I mean, we could get legal advice on this if you want.
No.
That's typically how we've
Said
been doing
shall.
it, and we've been voting,
Yeah.
Shouldn't there shall.
letting them have a public hearing.
I guess why, the reason I ask is that we spent a total of 2 hours considering this issue. First, July 12th of 2023, and then again on January 14th of 2024. And I know that because I spent yesterday reviewing the tapes, and I saw what the time was and so forth. And so this has been thoroughly talked about, and we granted, in fact, I made the motion. I was in favor of giving this special use permit for 17.5 acres. But that was based upon the representations made by Mr. Storti and upon the facts that were presented at the time, and also by the guidance that you gave in terms of what our future possible land use might be for this. Now, I saw this, and this request for modification is so contrary and contradictory and inconsistent with the facts and the representations upon which we granted the 17.5 acre thing, that I'm wondering, do we have, has the planning commission had enough time to wrap their head around this, to even make a decision, even to schedule a public hearing, because it's so inconsistent. And I can give you some examples. I mean, on its face, he asked for 100 years when he knows that we granted him 30 years for 17.5 acres. Why would he think we grant him 100 years? The other hearing, we said times of operation are 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. In this one, he asked 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday. But some other things are even more important, and I can just briefly, and I'll get this out of the way real quickly. So, one of the main things that were talked about before was, and Mr. Storey represented at the first hearing on July 12th, 2023, that this will be very minimal impact on the surrounding area. And I think the phrase "out of sight, out of mind" was used several times. And another thing that Mr. Storey said at that meeting was he had an interest in a greenway corridor. And you know, he talked about how this is a major non-motorized recreation corridor, and that he didn't want to interfere with that. And then he also said he purchased 400 plus acres so that anywhere they would go, there'd be a 10-acre buffer between their operation and any other landowners. And then there was also talk about verbal commitment to work with NTN to maintain their trails. And yet, in this application, he talks about all trails will be closed, public will not be allowed on this land. Well, that's the 400 acres that people are using now for various reasons. And then the question was asked, is it your intention to extract and expand beyond the 100 and odd number acre red parcel? And the question was no, we would never expand that. In fact, we're going to be limited to the 17.5 acres. And then, because he said that if we ever did that, it would be many, many years from now. And then Jim asked him about NTN, the trails, and Mr. Storey said, we don't want to sell them out. In fact, I don't want to cut any of the timber. I know that we really would like to secure our relationship on the trails with the community. In fact, he's talking about putting a conservation easement through there. And also, another thing too is, the fly ash road was supposed to be a buffer, and nothing would be further south of the fly ash road. Well, that's inconsistent with his plan that he's submitted for the modification. Steve asked, what happens when we have the 240 homes over there at Forestville? Mr. Storey, or you, I guess you assured us that, again, this is not going to impact them because it's only 17 acres and this will be in a consolidated area, out of sight, out of mind. You used that, you echoed Mr. Storey's phrase. Then, on the 14th of January of 2024, it was emphasized throughout that hearing that Mr. Storey on this 17 acres had enough gravel in that area for many years. And for that reason, any gravel extraction would be far away from any residential area. Again, mentioned they wanted to maintain the good relationship with NTN. At that hearing, there were several neighbors that appeared. In fact, there were 5 or 6. And some of the concerns were expressed even at that, with that limited geographic area of 17 acres only being approved, noise. One of the neighbors complained of a huge noise on some blasting that were done at that 17 acres. Another man, this was Patrick Oldhauer, I guess his name was concerned that you know, Mr. Storey owns 400 acres, so even though he's asking for 17 acres now, is this going to grow into be so much bigger? Is it going to blow up into something, you know, large, quite large?
If I could just interject.
Yeah.
I think instead of wasting more time on this, you know, we either schedule it or we don't. All of this is something that could be talked about at the hearing.
Well, he says he doesn't even know if he wants it scheduled.
Well, let's find that out instead of, because you talking about.
I can give you the reasoning behind all of this
Yeah.
right here tonight.
Well, I'm just telling you.
I can give it, and I brought Jason multiple stuff when I talked to him about it.
Yeah, okay.
The
well,
main
why don't you
reason
explain it?
behind this
Yeah,
of looking to expand it is when I want to put 20 to 30 million dollars into this site. Private equity money and banks. They don't care about anything about getting their money back out of the project, okay? So with that said, they brought to me, what about the size? When we do a $500,000 engineering design for a quarry, you're gonna go down for the gravel pit, go deep. You're not gonna go 400 acres and haul it 4 miles either way. It's not cost effective. You go down, you come up with conveyors. So we didn't go to that yet, but in order for me to secure the funding to do what I'd like to do with the existing property, they asked me, can you get I said I might, and with that, so where there's no one allowed on the property, I've been allowing people all over that property. Never once have I ever called the sheriff. There's people cutting timber, getting equipment stuck,
Yeah,
the
this is what
trails
you
are all
told
there.
us. This is what you
This
told
is
us
still
when we were
happening
17
right now.
acres.
And then the trail, I actually gave you a drawing where I cut out an easement for the trail system. So I am trying to be, I'm not one of these dirt bag landowners. I don't need to go this, I just wanted the extra, I wanted the funding. They're not gonna secure the funding for me to do it, and I don't have $30 million to go make this work. So I'm trying to figure out how to make the property cost effective, because I tried to sell a portion of it, and I couldn't, because we couldn't do the zoning, which, that was rejected, the 20 acres. I tried to put it in CFR to eliminate the tax burden on me. I can't do that because all the neighbors have everything all over it. They got tree stands everywhere, houses. There's people all over that property using it as they wish. And I've never once complained to them. I see them, I turn, I look the other way, and I walk away. Because I don't want to stir up trouble. I don't want to be the burden. I just want to do what I'm doing without a burden. And I'm constantly in contact with Lori Hosworth at NTN and everything else going on there about making sure that they can secure that property if I ever have to sell something or do something with it. Because if it's not cost effective for me to keep it there, because I can't produce and make money out of it and I just spend, it's hard to keep something like that forever. And it was for sale for quite some time and nobody ever approached me till about 2 months ago, and I decided not to do any more with it. I started making investments and moving forward with the rock quarry. With that said, but that's why I'm reaching for more property. So we don't have the drawings or anything about it, but that's
They
just,
do.
They do. So did you get the copy of where I had the red spot where it was going to? That was going to the trail people, that portion of the land I didn't cut any of the trees, I didn't go. But ultimately, I wanted to put it all in there because then they say, okay, you have a permit, yep, you can make, okay, they don't look at common sense. That you're not gonna go 400
Let me
feet
ask
out,
you a question.
but down.
I'm misunderstanding something. I thought you had purchased this 400 acres sometime in the past.
3 years ago,
Okay.
Yep.
So you owned it, right?
I owned it, absolutely.
Okay, so what's this $20 million, $30 million equity issue?
It's what I wanna do now
Which
by
is
looking
what?
at the property with the rock quarry. Crushers, so we go to the 7 days of 7 to 7 operation. So it takes my investment from having to buy larger machinery
Okay.
from 22 million to produce the quantities for contracts I may have, if I can prove I can produce it, okay? And it's a lot of stuff over time, but I have to be able to prove to the people I can produce it or they won't give it to me. So that's where the people from New York, people from Chicago, they don't care
Okay, but-
about, I just gotta prove it to them. So if I buy bigger equipment, which costs me, about 28 million, but if I can extend the time to 7 to 7, it takes me down to about 19 million. So that's why the extended days, we can work longer, take smaller equipment to meet the quantities of the potential contracts I have.
Okay.
So that's where that time went. The 100 years, they just want to see, can you make it back over time? And they're looking for security if they're going to invest in me.
Yeah.
So that's where all of this is driving, for me to get the money to secure extra contracts to make it worthwhile to own.
Okay, well, the problem though, Mr. Sturdy, is, and again, I spent a lot of time during the 2 prior hearings questioning people
Understand.
who had objections to it, to try to understand if they were valid objections or the objections that could be granted, you could get it. I was in favor of you having this 17 years. So, but here's the issue. Your need, your financial need, is not the concern, my understanding of zoning law here as we are
Yep.
asked to do. is not our concern.
Okay.
Our concern is, what does the community need? And we don't need a 400-acre quarry. We don't need somebody who has the right to excavate 400 acres and spoil the recreational corridor, spoil the view from Sugarloaf, spoil that whole view, and then even interfere with what Jason, in fact, at the January 14th hearing, he was talking about, hey, you know, we're thinking about that corridor, massaging some stuff and getting residential in there, and we need our, our township people to have some place. Yeah, so your needs are inconsistent with our
your
needs.
needs, absolutely,
Yeah, they
yes.
weren't when you asked for 17
Yeah.
acres, but when you're asking for 400 acres.
I originally asked for
this is not-
124.
This is a no-go. This is why I didn't even want to have a hearing about granting you a hearing,
And
because I think it's.
I wanted to have the conversation.
Yeah.
I withdraw it. Done. I withdraw it. And I'm out. I
Great.
withdraw it. We're done. Case is closed
Yep,
on
Denny-
that.
Denny's
So I'll
not-
let people continue to use my property.
I'm only one person.
I know.
I'm telling
I
you.
withdraw it.
Denny, if I could talk.
Go ahead.
Denny's not speaking for all of us, so if you still want to go and have a public
I
hearing.
withdraw it. 'Cause I do my best to work with this area on that property. By granting so much use on that property, and to be badgered like that, that was never my intention on bringing this here as that property owner and taxpayer here for that. That was never my intention. I wanted to have a civil conversation about it, but I'm not gonna sit there and get that either. Because I put more money in to try to make things better for the community to use my property.
Jim,
With me allowing money for it.
can you come back up, please? Please?
Well, first of all, you can't withdraw it, and we have something to vote on here. And I'd like to call a question and see if there's a motion to be made
Well, can we
to schedule a public hearing or not.
Can we continue the discussion a little bit further?
Well, not if it's gonna be
Yeah, understood.
one-sided.
It's really the planning commission's purview, but would it be helpful, Jim, to modify the 17 acres to encompass your original site plan, which was the 120? And even that might be a lot, but is that enough to make things on it? You already have that parcel tax ID number under a special use permit for the 17 acres. If you wanted to grow that in the future, it looks like you would have to come back and modify it per the ordinance. Would you be willing to modify your application to consider something within that existing parcel tax ID number?
Yeah, any of it.
And would the planning commission then be amenable to scheduling a public hearing and having that site plan revamped to put specifically to that parcel only?
I think we should. all vote on it.
Wait. Let me ask Mr. Storti a question. Okay. So, a year ago you came and you said, I have this plan. Okay. And I'm gonna do this. And we said, that sounds like a good plan. Because the impact that you're proposing isn't that great. Okay. So now, and in January, there was some faux pas where we had to go through this again.
For transparency, we did it over.
Okay, that's fine, and that's fine, and we still agreed that you had a good plan here. So now, we've gotten gobsmacked, because we've gone from 17 acres to 400 acres, you want to do 100-acre sand extraction in there, and your rationale is that your financing is contingent on a 100-year plan. When you could be dead next year, then who's going to take over this stuff? And who's going to pay those banks back $38 million, $100 million, $85? I don't care how much it is. So all of a sudden, and you've got proposed quarries in phase 5, phase 6, phase 8. Is that just eyewash for the bankers, and that means nothing? Or is that something you're actually going to do? Because if they say, okay, we want to have commitments that you're going to be doing this phase, this phase, this phase, and this phase, and if you say, well, you know, I didn't do that, this is just for you, just so you could give me that money. I mean, that seems like a kind of a vacuous kind of thing we got going here. Because when you asked for this quarry, you knew that it was going to cost you some money. You must have figured you had, you know, you're already blasting in there, so you must have figured you had somebody that was going to bankroll that. I guess. I mean, you just didn't go in there willy-nilly and start.
The potential. Before then, I didn't have a customer that came to me wanting to.
You're a businessman.
Absolutely.
You're a successful businessman. You're a successful businessman. I'm gonna give you credit for that. I don't know, but I'm sure you've dealt with financial organizations before in the past. And this wasn't something that didn't come to you all of a sudden and go, holy cow, I really screwed up asking for that permit. You knew in the back of your mind that you're gonna have to expand that to get that kind of money, would be my surmise. You know, you're not an ignorant man.
But
You're not
I
an
didn't
ignorant
at the
man.
time. I didn't at the
I'm
time.
giving you credit for being a bright businessman. And for you to say that, oh my God, I can't do what I planned on doing because I can't get any money, I find that to be disingenuous on your part completely. Just from a personal
No, but
observation
I'm
of what's
telling
going
you
on.
that's not the intent behind it, period.
Okay,
And nor
okay.
did it, because I
And-
didn't have a billion-dollar company coming to me wanting to buy material from me till after we already had this done. Okay, so the successful businessman in me, let me see how I can make that work for you. They're requesting more from me before they give me a
Okay,
contract to produce
so initially you said that this.
railroad ballast because we're on the railroad.
So-
We're closer than anybody.
Let me ask you a question, okay? So initially you said that this is gonna last you 30 years.
It still probably will or more. Because
Then
if
why
you go down,
can't,
what
why
I
can't this satisfy your $1 million contract for a
Because
business?
I'm gonna go and I gotta invest another 300,000 in the design, which then will show, okay, you go down, because it's cheaper to go down than it is to go wide. So hence,
Go
I was
down.
bringing to
I
have,
thought you were flattening a mountain up there.
yeah, you
So you're
will
gonna
be.
flatten that and then go down.
That's what we'll have to do, yes.
Okay, so why the rest of this? That's what we're not getting. Why the
yeah.
rest of it?
Because they wanna make sure that there's enough there. Because they don't look at the rationale that it's cheaper to go down. They look at, it's cheaper to go down than it is to go wide. It's cheaper, flat out cheaper, because you're not hauling stuff so far. You get it as close as you can. 10 feet is cheaper than going a different direction.
Yeah, okay,
But
so from your saying, this is where the honey pot is right here.
Yes.
So what's this for?
The rationale to somebody that does not know the business that has a lot of money.
Wait a
and that's
minute,
all they
you've got people that invest in businesses and they don't know how a business operates? And you just give them this eyewash and they're gonna buy it?
The people that, if I have a contract for a certain amount of money,
Yeah.
people will give me money no matter what it is if I have that contract.
Okay.
I have to be able to justify it to get contracts. So, I mean, like I said, I withdraw it. I should have never even brought it. I should have just left it well enough alone.
But you have to
and I should just,
you have to
like I
understand,
said,
6 months from when you came the last time till now, it's like, holy moly, everything is just completely changed.
everything has changed in my end too.
Well, and you
I was selling it 3 months ago.
You understand our reticence in this.
I understand that. I
Okay,
do.
I mean,
I
you-
get
you
it. 3
really
months
have
ago, it was for sale before I even started. Now I have so much money into it, I'm moving forward with it, with contracts.
Okay,
We wished you well.
And
for that
and it went
17
well, it went a lot better than I ever could imagine.
Yeah, I
I've
mean-
never had somebody walk up to me with what they did, because I have something they need it in 5 states, and you can't get it anywhere else. That is the reality of it.
Linda, do you have any questions?
I don't think so. I have a hard time imagining someone doesn't know the business that they're wanting to invest in, but I'm not a business person, so I don't know.
It's bankers that know people with money and they invest.
Yeah, and I get that.
And they tell
I
you,
mean,
hey, your money's working, we got your money working for
Yeah.
you, so.
It's a
but they're
stock
throwing-
market
it-
game. So I guess
private equity.
you may just have to go back to them and say, this is the best I can do.
No, and then that is fine, that is
Yeah.
fine.
And they
I'll do
they
that.
may come up with a different option if they want the product.
Well, it just depends if I wanna do it.
Right,
How much effort am I gonna put into it?
well, and the planning commission.
And that's kind of where it is. How much is it worth fighting for me to fight for? Is it?
Well,
I don't wanna come here and because I am not the dirt bag, whatever, owner at the Westwood, okay? And that's what everybody's making me out to be.
No, not at
So I'm
all.
not. I'm very generous with my property to everybody in the county that goes on it. I'm sure most people been on the property. Rode through it, go in there, continue. You're welcome.
we had
You know,
this,
I wanna be a good neighbor.
But you're asking us to do
and
a
I-
legal.
Yes, and I understand the.
Definition,
Yes,
and it's
and
for
absolutely.
all time.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
But it's zoned for that, and that is the only thing you can do with that property currently. And when I made this, that was all that we could do. After I couldn't sell a chunk of the property to be developed by somebody, I'm like, what do I do with the rest of it? I might as well Then I went down the rabbit hole with everybody else, trying to find the funding. So I went for what was zoned, what it's zoned to do.
Right.
And I own it.
But do you
So
remember?
and I understand.
No, do you remember Jason talking about how we're gonna massage that area?
I know that, but
So-
I thought we would have,
Well,
we,
not
we,
without
we, a month
input
ago,
from the
we
property.
got it rejected on a 20-acre parcel, we couldn't sell it.
Yeah, but he told you that we're gonna work with you on trying to do something in some way. And I don't know where that went, but, you know, we're gonna have a master plan, we're gonna have a future land use plan. You know, he's talking about residential corridor there. Somebody's
So-
gonna,
That's one, Denny, don't put words in my mouth, okay?
well, I didn't, I took them off the tape.
It's a land use exercise that we have not performed in a number of areas in the township. The property was owned by we for over 50 years. Now it's under new ownership, fresh ideas, different resources. I still go back to the original question, back to you, based on commentary, instead of rescinding your application, would it be helpful to you to go for an expansion of the original 17
The original, I would absolutely be fine, because then I can move and do what I want. Here's the other thing, if I would have sold that other property for $250,000, I would have put that into the design and would have showed, hey, if you go down in this area, you'd be better off here than going wide. So hence then, I would let the property, as a businessman, pay for itself versus funding out of my pocket to do everything. So then that would give me more funding to go say, hey, guys, look it, this says it goes down, this makes sense to do it here versus going wide. So without that, I would have to dump another $250,000 of my money to have it engineered and designed in the area that's there. So when that didn't go through, I go to Plan B. Okay, well, let's see if this is where they were at. And I get where you guys are at with this. And I get where, when you say I die tomorrow, no, that can be a sticking point. So I agree with that. And that's something I wouldn't want. I wouldn't want to see, you won't do that. It doesn't make sense. I should say I can't, but maybe 100 years from now, the technology's there. It would take 10 minutes to do that and the whole place is gone. I don't know. But if we could go to the 124 or 121, whatever was originally asked for, then it gives me room to work and I can actually move forward
So
with what I have, because that is the initial area I want to use anyways. I never wanted to go any more than that, but without me spending every penny of mine in my production end, it doesn't make me cost effective for me to own the property over and over again to dump without people investing in it. And that's why I went that road expansion, because, like I said, if I would have sold the property, would have took the money, had the design done, I could have went to him with the design, said, here, this is what makes sense, guys, now do you want to invest with me? Sure. Do you want to give me the contracts? Yes. Without a plan that way,
So I'm not that financially astute, Mr. Storti, but
No.
let's say that these banks lend you a lot of money, which you're asking for.
Yep.
And for some reason, your business fails. And then, who owns that property? The banks that have the liens on it?
Yep, and
And
they
they can
assume
do
all the
whatever,
responsibility
and they
of
say,
it.
hey, we've got this property, we've got these permits, we can blast 7 to 7, 365 out here, we can do it
And-
for 100 years.
and when you
And
said
they
that,
can.
I didn't think about that part when you said that, I die tomorrow. They get it, they're gonna go try to maximize their money to get it back.
Yeah.
You know, even though,
And they
even
may
though,
not
like I
care
said,
about the
it
Necominock Trail
doesn't
Network.
financially make sense to go that way. It doesn't. It doesn't financially make sense to go wide. It makes financial sense to go down. But with that said, I understand that. I get where your point is with it. And was it an ask? Yeah, I might as well shoot for the moon if I'm gonna ask, so I don't have to come back every 6 months because something changes, because somebody offers me, you know, because I network with a lot of people, and, you know, and that was part of this whole deal.
I'd have to ask again if the planning commission would be amenable to perhaps at the next meeting reviewing a revised site plan on the existing parcel to include what was his original submittal, which was the 120. Everything was north of the fly ash road. The 60-foot buffer was provided. mean, that was essentially what was, what was submitted. The highlighted area, and maybe there was some confusion in the approval, but I understand it was in the minutes, the 17 acres. I had some questions about that. But the highlighted area was just the initial dig, right? And so, that seems to be somewhat of a, maybe not a happy medium, but a compromise if the planning commission was willing to entertain the modification of a permit, which he has the right to apply for, within reason. You know, again, it's very difficult to, navigate these types of land uses, but the same type of geography and topography that we find attractive aesthetically took the same amount of pressure and time to formulate the minerals that are underneath it. I mean,
So what you're saying is, Jason, you're asking Mr. Sturdy if he would amend this particular request for a modification to include only that 120 or whatever it was parcel that was originally presented as the larger area, but not permitted. You want to know if he'll come back and ask us if we'll schedule a public hearing based on those facts. Is that what you're saying?
that's what I'm asking, both parties, both the applicant and the planning commission, if that's some common ground that can be reached.
Well, I mean, you can't, I mean, I don't think you can ask us if we're gonna approve that.
No, I'm
You can
asking
just ask
you
us if we'll entertain, I
a
think he has.
revised application.
Well, I mean, doesn't he have a right to do that?
Yeah,
He does.
Okay, fine.
But 10 minutes ago, he was gonna walk out the door and, I'm just trying to find some common ground between the two parties here, to see if there's any.
Yeah, so
wiggle.
Mr. Sturdy, it would be your choice if you want to withdraw what's currently here and return with another application
Well,
at a later date.
I withdraw what currently here.
So you can do that, and then you can come back at any time. Correct?
Yeah,
That's
it
correct.
doesn't, all it says is that,
Yeah,
you follow the same procedure as you did for the initial permit for any amendments.
did you give him his money back? I would recommend that you return his money.
Keep it as a donation.
No,
We,
no,
We're
it's the
not
right thing to do. isn't it?
permitted to refund the application fee. However, if he was to revise his application, it could be used for that.
Thank you. Okay,
Well, I'm not saying I agree or disagree with what he's asking for, but I think he's entitled to a public hearing. I don't think the five of us should say, no, you're not entitled to a public hearing.
Can I make a point of order on it?
Right, if we wanna vote on
I'm
it,
talking,
but if
okay,
you're.
talking,
Sure,
okay?
yeah.
Just because the two of them don't agree to that doesn't mean the three of us aren't agreeing to it. So before the whole question tonight was whether we should schedule this or not, and we're acting like we're gonna make a decision on this tonight, and we're not. It's just to schedule a public hearing, which I think he has a right to, just like anybody else does.
I agree.
And I don't think it's right of those two guys to do this.
I didn't say I was
And
against a
to-
public
And to
hearing.
browbeat him
I-
and to yell at him when he comes up like this.
I want to know, don't we vote on whether we're gonna have a public hearing? Do I make a motion, we hold a public hearing? Is there a second? How do you vote? Don't we vote on that?
Yes,
Okay,
that's what I'm saying, we vote on it. If you guys don't want to hold a public hearing, that's fine.
I didn't say that.
Okay, then I want to call the question, I want to have this,
You have an applicant who withdrew,
He
who
withdrew
withdrew his
it.
application.
yeah, but now he's got to pay
Have
another
to.
$455.
No, we're going to return
No,
it.
we
We
can
waived
apply
it.
it to a revise. If he reapplies, we'll apply the fee to the new application.
So we're not voting on anything?
I don't think there's a
withdrew it?
point in doing so.
Not
He
if you
rescinded his
withdrew it.
application. We had a tough conversation this week, him and I, and kind of told him that it was gonna be a tough, just, I expressed it, not only that the planning commission would, but I had some strong feelings, and you know, we kind of talked about whether or not this existing permit on the existing parcel could be massaged to have some kind of, what's the C word? Compromise in what he was asking for and what he has. And was hoping that the planning commission, you don't have to consider it even right now. The agenda item, as far as I'm concerned, can be put to rest and we can move on. And it's up to Mr. Storty, since he rescinded his application, to meet with Eric and myself and consider reapplying based on the commentary that was received tonight. He made his withdrawal on his own volition. We did not, you know, he had lamented, or not lamented, but he had commented to me during our meeting earlier in the week that he may withdraw his application.
I wanted to have a
But
conversation.
he wanted to have a conversation.
I wanted to have a conversation about it. I didn't want to stir up everybody and have everybody angry about it. And me and Jason talked, and I said, I don't want to get into what we did over this. It's not worth it to me. I'd rather cooler heads prevail, because there's a lot at stake on that property, and I know that. If I get mad and just sell it to anybody, they may not grant the trails to you guys. It's a big deal. And with everything I had a property segregated off that was going to NTN to own, or long-term lease, as long as I had a permit for them to use, to secure it for the lifetime. Partially why I went with 100 years, that was another reasoning behind some of this, is to secure some of that land so nobody could eliminate that portion to that property. And that has been what I've said from day one to anybody that, because I bought it without even knowing those were on the property. And I stumbled onto it and I was like, what's this? Or I already had money down. And then I seen it and I found out, okay, I gotta assume liabilities, and I worked with them and figure it out. Yep, we'll work through it. And we did. And we continue to do.
Well, your idea of a conservation easement for that was an excellent one.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no reason, you know, that I see to change that. I mean, that's an excellent idea. What really was the issue here was the scope, you know.
And I understand that,
Yeah,
and I completely do.
I'm not, you know. I have.
Okay, well, he's withdrawn his motion.
Yep,
Right.
We
let's just
talked
move
about
on.
this plenty. We'll move on to the next,
Good. Thank you, Mr. Stark.
Thank you.
I apologize to you on behalf of the township for the way you were talked to tonight.
Oh, I don't.
I don't think it's right. And you guys do this, when you guys disagree with somebody, you start raising your voices at them and yelling at them. And I wouldn't want to be him coming up here and just asking a simple question. You guys cannot do this anymore. If I'm the chairman, I'm not gonna let you do it.
Well, how about when somebody,
I'm tired of it.
when somebody comes in front of us and we spend 2 hours granting a
Kenny,
17
he just asked a simple
acre-
question to have it,
Uh-huh.
have another
And-
public hearing.
Yeah.
He doesn't deserve to be yelled
And the
at
basis-
and browbeat like he did. So, okay, let's move on to 6C, compatible renewable energy ordinance discussion.
Yeah, this is something that Commissioner Ferraro asked to have on the agenda. So essentially, and Eric, I don't know, I think Eric could probably speak to this as much as I can, based upon his status of quickly becoming the renewable energy guy for the township. But, you know, the state implemented Public Acts 233 and 234. And they go into effect of November of this year. And we're not the only ones wrestling with this. Many townships are debating implementing an ordinance to essentially have another step in a review of a large-scale solar or wind operation. We did some research based on the stuff that Commissioner Ferraro sent us, and we came up with basically, we put in your packet the legislative review that was put out. I forget the agency that put it out. Eric, do you have?
It is the House Fiscal Agency.
Okay, so, but when you go to MTA's website, MTA and both MTA and the Michigan MSU Extension are always partners of ours, and they seem to come up with these draft ordinances for us to, I guess, glean and massage to be usable in our community. So the other option, and right now the MTA has kind of pumped the brakes on that draft ordinance because there are some details that are still have not been fleshed out by MTA, by the lobbyists, and everybody else involved in the House bills. We want to continue to keep this on the agenda, but at this time, unless Denny, if you have any other comments, or Eric, essentially what I read was that either come late September, October, if we don't have anything in place, one of the things that we could do would be to put a moratorium on those land uses until such time that either the Michigan Townships Association or the MSU Extension come up with some usable draft language for us to consider. I don't know if Trustee Farrar has any other comments.
Yeah, I called the MTA on June 20th, which was before you sent out this packet, because I wanted to follow up on what I had previously sent to you. And I talked to Mike Selden, and at that point he told me that, and I asked him, you had talked about doing a model ordinance way back in January, but then you put the brake on it because there was this some type of a recall or a ballot initiative that failed. So anyway, I said, what's the status? He says, oh, well, we're working on the model ordinance for you, but we're waiting, as you said, for a couple of comments from the commission, the state commission. I called him today to get an update to see if anything had changed between June 20th and today. And he said that they received some additional material from the commission, and that the MTA will be sending out a model ordinance for us before the 4th of July.
Fantastic. Well, let's put that on the July 10th agenda for us to consider.
And I guess you'll get it, or Lynn will get it.
Yeah, you should all be subscribed to MTA's newsletter. I get so many emails from them that I delete quite a few, actually.
Yeah, he said there'll be a reference to it in the Insight magazine.
Okay, great. So thanks for staying on top of that. It was going to come up at some point. I know Eric had discussed it in previous discussions too, but appreciate it bringing it to the Planning Commission's attention and our attention. So if it's okay with the Planning Commission, can we have that on the July 10th agenda then for a glean at the ordinance? Eric, anything else to add there?
No, I commend you, Jason, for your staff reports. I think you do a good job of succinctly summarizing what the purpose of a CREO would be. Yeah, I'd leave it at that.
One other comment. There's a deadline of November 27th, but according to Selden, unless our township has a developer that's ready to go with one of these sites, doesn't matter. We can go beyond the deadline.
Yeah, we can still shoot for that timeline, though. I think that's fair.
So, yeah.
And I believe it would be a standalone police ordinance. I don't think it needs to be a part of the zoning ordinance. That's yet to be decided, but I think that could be immediately implemented by the township board if they were agreeable to it. Jim, does that satisfy that agenda item?
Yep. Correspondence? None?
No, we do. We have some, Eric issued a ticket today.
Did you want to skip the residential target thing?
Oh, geez.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. 7A, unfinished business.
Yep.
Marquette County Intergovernmental Housing Task Force Residential Target Market Analysis Discussion.
Can you touch on that, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have anything further on that. I think we left it on there as a chance for you guys to either ask questions or give comment as the documents of that target market analysis were provided relatively recent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just informational. One of the things that I looked at today in there ahead of the meeting was the need in different housing segments, which I thought was really interesting, which then could lead to us tailoring our master plan a little bit in detailing our ordinance. Remember, we talked early on about how we can affect affordable housing or workforce housing in our community, and we thought zoning was one of the things that could really play a major part in that. Increased density, but we're not supposed to look at the term density, we're supposed to look at proximity. Accessory dwelling units in some cases, making allowances for additional dwelling units on a property perhaps. So I think that our actions are kind of in line with what the housing study, we all knew what the housing study was gonna, produce, essentially, that we need more and we need different types. So I guess we'll just keep that on the agenda, especially as we pass this off to SEH during our master plan update. They have a copy of it. We have a folder, Eric and I, they've created something that we just dump information into, and they're, whether it's transportation related and all the discussion about future development, that's proposed in Forestville, and they've got transportation planners. They're gonna be looking at stuff like that, as well as the potential bypass and other things that have been historically discussed.
And I reiterate that we knew somewhat what the study was gonna say as far as what types of housing we needed. Maybe not specifically what types of housing we needed, but we knew it was gonna say we need more housing.
More housing.
And a lot more people are comfortable with rentals.
Right.
Yeah.
And reiterate too what we discussed at the last meeting, that this study is targeted towards contractors and developers. While it is useful for us as local government people to review and use and provide to those folks, again, it's targeted for them to be able to make a case for funding in some cases and development, so.
Good point.
I also think that the short-term rental should come in discussion with this also, because
Yeah, we put that on the radar today.
it's definitely, with every house we okay for that, it's taking a house off the market and people to live in, and turn it into more of a hotel or motel.
Yeah, we did put that topic on their radar today. Actually, I met with Lori and Bria for 2.5 hours today and just kind of verbally vomited everything that I have, it's in my head about what our issues and opportunities are. Tonight's, on their behalf, was more about establishing the participation process, really narrowing down the survey, because we want to get that out early so that there's plenty of time for people to participate. And then the other, input options that are out there for residents and business owners. We really want to hear from people. It's just like a recreation plan or a transportation plan. Those are derived from public input. We just kind of formulate the input into a common vision. It's no different with this master plan, and I can't wait to hear from everybody. So we'll keep this, maybe not on the agenda, excuse me, but we will keep this on the back burner, and just know that SEH has this in their Dropbox folder, and they will be reviewing it. In fact, we kind of reviewed it today.
Yeah, it's kind of alarming though, like how few developments have, like we haven't really had too many new housing units. A few over by the golf course, there's been a couple, but over the past couple of years.
You had one approved recently, like the other night, right? In
Yeah,
the
for the
city?
city.
How many units was that?
It'll be 26 vacant lots that people can build single-family homes on, and then there's a 39-unit apartment building,
Okay,
which
so
is
mixed
not a
use.
condo.
Yeah.
It's mixed use. Yeah, one apartment building. The lots are condos because it's a sub-condominium division, which means they own their own lot, but they build their own house, but it's part of a.
Where's it gonna be located?
Over off of McCullen and Division Street, the corner off of McCullen and Division,
Oh, yeah,
heading
yeah.
out to the ski hill.
There was a picture in the paper today.
Right with the intersection.
It's a good location.
Yeah.
Next to, again, adjacent to or within proximity to recreation and good, well thought out transportation networks, so it's
But no
good.
matter what the price range, a unit's a unit that's on the market, and that it would help anywhere.
Right.
And we see that here because we don't even have you know, a dozen over here
Did
new.
Veridia take advantage of the residential TIF,
Not on,
legislation?
not on that
Okay.
project. That's not a brownfield or, no.
Okay. All right. Correspondence?
Did have something you said?
Yeah, we had,
So this morning, and again, this may fall under the planning and zoning report, which I did intend on reporting, but correspondence works too, did issue a ticket to one of the owners at 760 Lake Enchantment. Issuing it to just one owner was on advice of our township attorney. It was issued to the occupant, I should be clear, who is one of the three owners. Our township attorney is of the opinion that that will give us a better chance of holding him in contempt of court, and if the problem remains, which nothing leads me to believe that it won't. So he thinks it gives us a better chance of holding that person in contempt of court and then issuing a court order and leaving the matter, not leaving the matter, but the matter would be under the court's discretion then rather than the township's. And I would say that they probably have a little more teeth than we do as far as property or as far as enforcing some of those things. So that ticket was issued this morning, and I will keep the planning commission updated as we progress.
So I have a question.
Sure.
So I happened to do my little drive-by today, and one of the blighted properties looks unchanged in Trowbridge. So I think I asked before, but maybe we need to figure this out. I still want to know the process. Do they get a citation, and do they have 30 days to fix it? And if they don't fix it in 30 days, do they have, what happens next? I mean, I don't know, and I don't know that anybody.
we'd be happy to detail that in an outline, but essentially we use a 3-letter rule. So first one is to ask them to clean it up. The second one is to tell them to clean it up. And the third one usually is a citation.
And how many days, Jace? Because that's what,
Well, it depends on, we have the discretion, you know, if it's human, like if a bird comes by and,
okay.
you know, trash is all over the yard, 48 hours, you know.
Okay.
If they have something like what's out on 550, you know, it may take a long time. And if people show us progress and they contact us and, you know, they say, hey, we're working on this, we're having a little bit of trouble, I mean, then we will give them more time. But there is a process to it. And even in the case of the Lake Enchantment property, it's already went to court once and nothing's changed.
Right.
So all we can do is the best we can, but we're happy to detail our process with you.
Will you please do that? Because I think the
Sure.
board wants that detail
And
too.
you did request a one-sheeter of sorts.
Yeah,
with
so-
with the process and some of the basic
Yeah,
property
and the
maintenance.
time frames. You know, you
Could we
can't,
get like a map, like the short-term rentals, like one with which ones we're talking about, the blight?
you want to know where the blight is?
Been issued citations?
Or that are
Talking
still
about?
active?
Oh, I
Like
see
one
what
in
you're saying,
Trowbridge,
Bethany.
one in 550, one in Lake Enchantment, so we can see where our,
Yeah, there's more than one in Trowbridge.
right,
Yeah,
but I get confused with.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll make you more familiar with property maintenance than you'd probably like to be.
Well, I think,
Got it.
I think that people who come to me are concerned about blight. It's affecting their property value in their mind. And we need to know in 30 days, you have 30 days, and if we don't see progress, this is what happens. I'm sure both of you worked places where it was well written out what happened.
Yeah, it's well written out. We just haven't provided that for you. That's pretty easy
Okay.
to do, yeah.
So please, yeah, to both, and then the board would also like to know that nice little map where all the short-term rentals are. And if you send that to Randy Rotari, he can give it to the board, so then they'll know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Typically, that would go through the manager, but we'll make that exception for the
Oh,
board.
well, however you want. You follow, stay in the lane.
Yeah.
So Jace,
Yeah.
stay in whatever lane is right,
All
okay?
right, will
For
do.
me, yeah.
Will do. Thank
They
you.
just asked.
All right, so I'll ask the question. So an issue was adjudicated last year, citations were issued, a cleanup attempt was made, it's worse again this year, citation's issued, a cleanup attempt is made. It happens again next year, a citation is issued, a cleanup attempt is made, a next year happens. When does it end?
That's what the process will tell us.
What process? This has been 7 years. What's the end result?
Well, right, I understand that, but.
No. I'm not asking you. I'm
Oh,
asking
no.
our planning people, what is the end result?
Yeah,
Sorry.
good question. We go in and clean it up, right? We apply that to their taxes, and then it happens again. So I don't see,
So what is the contempt? It goes to jail?
That's to be decided by the court, Steve.
Okay, no, I was just kind of curious.
Yeah, we don't know.
Okay, but
How
I
do you
mean,
know?
I mean,
It goes
what,
to court again.
so you put it against the taxes and then, so you saw a citation to one of the three owners, but the other two owners are liable for the taxes, I would
There's only
guess.
2 owners now. I think one divested themselves of the ownership there.
Okay.
Did you ever ask Attorney Zappa whether or not the court can retain jurisdiction after issuing, for example, after issuing one contempt citation, element contempt, and then whatever penalty is accompanies that by the court order. But can the court then retain jurisdiction in some type of, and you could have, I don't even know it, if there's a consent decree format allowed in this type of zoning thing. But if there is a consent decree, then the court can retain jurisdiction, and if this person then violates it again, you don't have to go through the whole rigmarole again. You just go back to the judge, you schedule a hearing, you go back to the judge and you say, okay, he's in contempt again, Your Honor.
And that, because Roger and I, Township Attorney Zappa, went back and forth on because at the previous planning commission meeting, it was made very clear that all 3 owners need to be cited. And
One would think it makes sense.
I was in agreement with that. And so Roger and I went back and forth in several conversations over, because he had the thought of, how about we just issue it to the occupant? Because if you remember the last time the tickets were issued to all 3, the occupant went to the courthouse, accepted responsibility, and it kind of went away for him, and the other 2 denied responsibility because it wasn't their stuff. And they were the ones who came into court and fought it, and that's who we were against, and not the occupant. So by doing it this way, Roger's thinking is that, and a formal hearing was requested, so it'll be Roger and myself and other township staff, if they wish to come, against the occupant and any representation he has. So by doing it this way, Zappa's thinking is that something like that is more
Beneficial to us.
Exactly.
So you're saying that Zappa, Attorney Zappa did say that this would be a way for the court to retain jurisdiction over this issue?
You're speaking legalese to us. Denny, if you could just send that in an email, we'd be happy to forward that to Attorney Zappa. I don't understand
Okay, fine.
the general, I mean, I kind of do, but we're just trying to get a property cleaned up. We're not attorneys, we're not judges.
no, but
We're just following.
Okay,
This was to address Steve's point.
I'll put it non-legalese. When's it gonna be cleaned up?
Yeah, well, good point. It might be cleaned up again this fall, and if he follows the rules, then it'll stay cleaned up. If not, then we'll be cleaning it up again. I don't know what other answer you want me to provide you with. We only have so much that we can do to conduct property maintenance. We have once it goes to court, we feel like, well, wow, that's a pretty big deal.
Have you contacted Eagle?
Not yet.
Isn't
That was
that
my-
solid waste being deposited out there?
It was my intention.
Yeah.
once
Because the
they-
last time I checked, there were 9 junk cars out there. That seems like solid waste.
Yeah,
There's garage doors out there, panels, there is an incredible amount of solid waste.
I was out there.
It's
one
next
you
to
don't
a,
have to talk to him like that. I'm right here.
okay,
If you wanna-
what are we gonna do about it?
Eagle has been very amenable to working with us, particularly on the 550 issue. They have sent letters as well.
Okay?
And if we would like to employ them, they've made themselves available to other cases. that
I would like to suggest that maybe you do that in this instance.
We already have.
Okay, and what did they say?
They're go take a look at it. So,
It's just unbelievable.
Well, we're sorry that you live next to it as a planning commissioner, and we're trying to do
I
our
feel
best.
sorry if you live next to it too, but I'm sure you'd have your hackles up. And if your property value dropped. And it's, huh? You wouldn't be upset if your property value would
No, I
decrease because of it?
absolutely would be frustrated, Steve. Absolutely.
Yeah, after 7 years, you think you'd be frustrated?
Well, we've cleaned it up once, right? And what happened? It just went right back. It's a behavioral issue. It's not, you know.
Did you say that the township can hire somebody to clean up all that junk and take it out of there and put it on their tax bill?
Once we follow our procedure, yes.
So you have to follow
But
what we're doing.
he fights every piece of garbage that he's got out there going in that dumpster. Is that right, Eric? There was a lot of stuff that was left out there last year that he was gonna move somewhere or sell somewhere. I mean, that stuff was out there all year, all winter long. It's just more now.
I don't think it's gonna go away. Really, I think they're gonna keep going through, and he kinda said there is not a solid date or time, or yes, you can never give that, it will be fixed.
We're trying to employ other resources that have
I'm
bigger.
tired of the lip service. It's a goddamn shame.
No, I think he just said today that there's really only so many actions they can do, and it might just be like this.
Yeah, just tough shit for me, I guess.
It is, kind
Yeah,
of.
I guess so.
Well, is there maybe?
But I think somebody needs to say that, like, they can only do all this.
Was there any discussion with Attorney Zappa about tinkering with the blight ordinance to make this process more punitive so that this would?
He is, sorry to interrupt, he is of the opinion that we need to completely revamp our property maintenance ordinance.
Okay. What is the city, what is the city, Marquette?
I believe they are International Property Maintenance Code, IPMC.
Which is what we have.
Grass grow, like we get right on.
These are,
Oh, it's Boca. Oh, there's a difference there.
yeah.
Okay.
BOCA, which I forget what that stands for, Building Officials and Code Administrators or something like that. So there's two different property maintenance codes, and our ordinance, and I'm more familiar with IPMC as I've dealt with that in previous jobs. And Zappa, in reviewing our property maintenance ordinance, is of the opinion that it contains sections of that BOCA ordinance. So he thinks that we need a complete revamp. It's something more in line with maybe IPMC or one of the other.
And he thinks that that could solve the problem about enforceability?
Help solve the problem, yeah.
Yeah, well, there's more, I don't know if there's more teeth. If you go to any township conference right now, they're stressing the civil infractions. That's what you should be administering. And so I believe we do enforce civil infractions or implement them. Having, Eagle on board with us is something new. And so hopefully that assists us. But
All right, this is the last time I'm gonna ever mention this
Okay, township board report. Linda?
Well, the township board met on June 19th, and some of the discussion centered around the Solid Waste Authority. So you can probably be assured that there will be some increases to what are called tipping fees. We just don't know quite what it is. It keeps kind of changing a bit, so if you're interested in following that, please do. Otherwise, we will probably see an increase in solid waste fees to our utility bills. That's my take on that. The other thing is, someone from Travel Marquette sent us an email about how the roundabouts look in the middle, not very appealing, they felt, and Lynn sent them back a letter explaining that the County Road Commission governs what goes on in the roundabouts. Other than that, I want to remind you that you can go to the MTA conference. It is in July.
Frankenmuth, that one?
No, the one in by the casino in Escanaba area.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Hot
so,
topics.
so if you want to do that, other than that, there will be more things coming. I would encourage people to attend some of the education sessions. I think it's valuable, as does Lynn, and Jason will tell us we have money in the budget for education. I'm excited that Community Day is gonna be one of the places that our team is gonna stop at. I'll have to talk with them though, 'cause we have a full hockey rink. There's free ice cream, free popcorn, free this, free that.
Nice, good job on taking.
Yeah, so we'll see. I have a really great team. So,
Yeah,
anyways.
we also told them that property maintenance was gonna be a big topic, in the master plan and community comments, so. Yeah, be prepared for a solid agenda on July 10th, because we're gonna have a whole agenda item on property maintenance, and we will tell you where we're at, where we'd like to go, and how we'd like to get there.
So do we need to start earlier?
No, just be prepared to be here longer.
Okay.
Rec committee?
Rec committee did not meet. I was on vacation last week. I did not ask Planner Powers to have a meeting in my stead. They will meet next month because we are now in the master planning process and we want to get everybody's input. So prior to this month's meeting, we asked them to review that portion of the master plan and recreation plan that deals with the master plan update and to provide some commentary. So I'm sure we'll have some at the next meeting.
Any road committee report?
Nothing to report. We do have a scheduled meeting next week, but we'll likely cancel it, which is probably news to Carl, who's a member of the committee. Just due to the fact that it's scheduled for July 2nd and the holiday, so, and not a lot of agenda items. So likely to be canceled. Probably make that determination before the end of the day tomorrow, so.
Okay. And the zoning.
Oh, and there's nothing going on, obviously. If you didn't hear, there's some exciting news, at least from our perspective, about the possibility of the Jacob Eddy Veterans Home being relocated within the community. We feel that property offers a lot of connectivity for our veterans to the movie theater, to Super One Foods. You know, what we have in place out there is walkable, and we will keep the planning commission apprised. We haven't seen any plans, obviously, or anything like that. I think the purchase agreement was just signed, but there's lots of contingencies and due diligence still yet to be done. So we will keep you abreast of that.
You were wondering if, with that going there, is there going to be any room on that property for any type of a park still, by any chance?
Yeah, good question, Jim. So we did have that conversation with them, and it was a favorable conversation. To the extent that could happen, I don't know. But as we are both 501c3 entities, there is the ability to apply for grants together. And I would find it hard to believe that the state wouldn't support a park property on a veteran's home property. So, yeah, I think there's, like I said, there's lots of synergies there that are yet to be realized, but we will, we're continuing to have those conversations as they come up.
I'm really supportive of that. I think that whole thing of blending seniors and young people in activities is a win-win.
Yeah, music amphitheater,
Biking, just moving, watching kids.
Yeah.
Fishing.
I think they had some kind of fishing pond
Yeah.
proposed, at least if you look at some of the other ones downstate.
Yeah.
They have those activities, so, yeah, it's an exciting opportunity. The township board may be a little bit, apprehensive, because that property would come off the tax roll, but I think if you look at the benefit to the community,
Our veterans.
I hope they would consider that that outweighs maybe any taxable value, if you will, but that's my opinion, not anybody in the planning commission or Eric's, that's just mine. Lots of good jobs, lots of people coming to the community, using the restaurants, visiting our recreational areas, and hopefully taking the veterans to the movies and to our restaurants. So.
That's it.
That's all for now.
Okay. Any announcements? Any public comment from anyone?
Yes, I will. I know we all want to leave, but Susan Spalding, 285 Forestville Basin Trail. I didn't think that there was any yelling going on here tonight. I thought it was a good exchange of information. I know Steve got upset about obviously the beautification. I think that's a valid concern. I just want to give some input that I have lived in other areas and been on homeowners associations. I know this is a little bit different, but when we had those issues, there could have been a lien placed on the property. So I don't know if some changes need to be made in the ordinances or something to address that, because it doesn't have a good impact on the community, seeing the camps, the junkyards, whatever. And I wouldn't want to live in there. And there's got to be a way to deal with it. Like you said, you just can't let it go on and go on and go on, because obviously that's not a win-win for anyone. And whether it's a mental illness issue or whatever, it does need to be addressed. So maybe something needs to be changed in how things are done, and a vote can be taken on that. Obviously, I don't know what his name is, withdrew his application. Maybe that's going to be changed. I would rather see 1,000 wind turbines go in than blow up the landscape from where people hike, what brings people to this area, Sugarloaf Mountain, hiking, etc. So I understand dollars and cents in jobs, bringing people into the area are all important, and I think all that needs to be taken into consideration when these decisions are being made. And as far as I agreed with you, as far as putting flyers or fillers in with the utility bills that go out at the beginning of the month, I just feel like in the election year, we're going to be so bombarded with text, emails, and QR codes. It's just like enough. The other thing is, I feel that there's so many fake things going on. Unless I really know who it's coming from and what it's about, I'm not going to go on that QR code. I'm not going to open up that text. I'm not going to take the survey on, because there's just been too many bad guys out there. So unless I really am confident where it's coming from, I'm not going to respond to that survey. So that's all I have. Thank you for everything that you all do. I know you have the best of our community in your intentions. We all want this to be a good place, bring people in, keep on growing, and so I'm happy to be a part of the community, and thank you.
Thank you. Looks like no one else, so we'll close the public comment. Additional comments by planning commissioners? Steve?
Well, I guess I just want to say I felt like this was a little harder of a meeting on some people, and Steve, by my comments, I didn't mean anything, I've heard it the last couple of years and what you've been saying, and it was just my interpretation that I feel like with what our rules are right now, we can't control it.
Oh, I know.
I know, and
I know.
we can't make you promises, and I didn't, and I guess I just black and white, I just told
No,
you,
no,
it
no,
sounds
no.
like it's not happening.
No.
Unless, and I believe that her comment was spot on, like unless there's a lien or some adverse possession, unless he's not living there, you're always gonna have it, and I don't know what the solution is, but I know that Jason and Eric are doing what they can by the rule of the law. I wish we had better support for you.
No more than me.
And with Mr. Sordy's discussions too, I would have voted to let him have a public hearing, because I think that's the right thing to do with the law, but I think he came with us with more than a modification. And I understood all your comments, and I'm glad that you told him, even though it was hard to hear. So, I
Well,
think it
I-
was an effective meeting, even if it was hard.
Yeah, I admit I can be abrasive. It's maybe old habits, cross-examination, but I didn't think I was being. I guess I was angry because I thought he was wasting our time by coming with such a cockamamie.
Well, people have rights, though.
They do have
People have
rights.
rights.
They do have
Hey,
rights.
we're done.
We're done. No more
No,
comments.
but thank you.
Done.
Can
I
just
guess
say
the
one
only
last
thing I'm asking is that, you know, we just respect people when they come up there and talk to them civilly like we'd like to be talked to. And, you know, if I was standing there and you were talking to me like, I mean, you're not really abrasive, but it's just, it's the tone, you know, of you and Steve when you talk to them like that. And, you know, then one thing leads to another, because then he starts getting upset and, you know, we're kind of here to set the example and to not be like, if out there like if somebody's yelling, so.
Your point's well taken.
Yeah, so I think if we just do it all civilly, and Steve and Eric are always doing a good job, and, you know, they're trying to do their best also, so. Linda?
So I just have a question. Where is the ordinance about blight? Is it in this book?
No, it's a standalone piece.
Can you send it to me? Maybe to all of us and to maybe to the board. Maybe should see the blight ordinance because they hear some of that too. Maybe we don't even know what blight means.
It's pretty self-explanatory.
Well, I know for the city, what they've done is they issue a fine, and it's a daily fine,
Ours is
yeah.
like that too.
you know?
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you know, to stay on top of that, it's.
So
not
these
the
people
easiest.
can't get issued a daily fine if they don't have that cleaned up? and-
If the,
We gotta
if the,
read that.
I believe it's the court finds them, you know, we find them to be in violation. Eric issues a ticket which goes to court. If the court finds them in violation, then it's a separate issue every day. And that should be something that Roger pushes for.
But it
As we move
didn't
forward.
work like that. The city, it's like, if you're in violation, you're in violation. You don't have to keep going to court every day. Until it's rectified, it's a $200 fine per day, or, you know, whatever, until
Okay.
that's done.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'm just not sure that we want it to get fixed. I'm not sure
Right.
that people that
What's the best way
you
to
get
it
those
fixed?
tickets to don't even have the money to fix it sometime. So you're really not doing, we need to find a solution.
So if you have somebody go there and clean it up, that's fixing it. So have somebody go there and have the township go there and do it, or not the township, but have somebody haul everything out, tack it on their tax bills, fixed. If it gets
Yeah, we've done
like
that.
that again,
We've done that.
yeah.
And it just goes right back to the way it was, so. Maintaining compliance with the ordinance seems to be the issue, so. We'll discuss it. We'll discuss it in depth at our next meeting.
There's
Good
probably
idea.
only 5 or 6 people in the whole township that are like that.
Yeah, just the 10%, it's always the 10%.
Not even 10.
Adjourn?
Okay.
Can I just ask one last question before we go? And this is
We're
nothing that
adjourned.
has to go on the
Wait,
book.
okay, we're adjourned. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry.
Now you can talk to
I was
us.
just gonna ask the question, because somebody had mentioned the roundabouts, how ugly they are in the middle. So who are we supposed to notify?
It's the county road commission that decides what goes or who, how it all works. Those are county highways and we can't just go out
No,
there
it's
and
not.
say.
It's a state highway, and we've had people that have volunteered